young millionaires, the general. Okay, I wake up every day, I'm feeling good, I'm feeling great. Every day I'm getting paid, man, this life is going great. I just wanna celebrate, I made it in and out of state. $1,000,000 in the case, I got it here in summer safe. I multiply all my millions and really I am extremely wealthy. I distributed my millions with my family. This is just the beginning, I purchased a Lamborghini. Driving around the city, believe me, you haven't seen me. Made it through all the struggle, defeated all of my rivals. I was never entitled, I had to fight for survival. Man, this life is amazing, it's crazy the way we made it. Now I'm living my dreams and I'm burning, just getting started. I'm a millionaire. I'm just feeling classy. Every day I'm classy. Gotta recognize the realest person in the fashion. Classy. Every day I'm classy. Gotta recognize the realest person on the fashion. I made it through the struggle back when I was very worried. Now I'm chilling, get my condo, Lamborghinis and Bugatti. I know you in a hurry, but I promise don't be worried when you see me in the club. I probably got enough to party. I'm a multi-millionaire, getting money everywhere. I ain't tripping on nobody, I just came to celebrate. Yeah, we got the party popping, got the general over here, throwing money in the air, cause we get it every day. I multiply all my millions, now me and my people winning. Moving city to city, I promise that you will see me driving a Lamborghini, but this is just the beginning. $1,000,000 Bugatti, I'm stacking money in the ceiling. Multiply all my millions, now me and my people winning. Moving city to city, I promise that you will see me driving a Lamborghini, but this is just the beginning. $1,000,000 Bugatti, I'm stacking money in the ceiling. I'm a millionaire. I'm just feeling classy. Every day I'm classy. Gotta recognize the realest person in the fashion. Classy. Every day I'm classy. Gotta recognize the realest person on the fashion.
Live from the grill on San Mateo, it's the Truth Podcast with the General, Jack Vigil, Carson Chavez, John Chavez, and me, your host, Coach B. June 30th, can you believe it? Where did the month of, General, did you pay somebody to just get over the month of June, man? Did we go through a full month?
I'm trying to pay somebody to get past 2020, Coach. Forget the month. Let's not shoot low, baby. You know what I mean? I'm trying to shoot higher than that.
Let's get 2020 over with. I hear you, brother. How was your week, man?
Week was good, Coach. Week is really good. You know what I mean? I think I got a chance to start off my week by trying to make some major changes. Harmonix is going up to the Ute Nation, and we're going to build out a phone system and networks for that community that hasn't got that stuff done in 5 years. I think for me it's a blessing every day that I get to master my craft, but not only that, my craft actually impacts people, right? It impacts their communications, the way they can communicate, and then the information they can get. So that's one thing I've always loved about what I'm able to do.
You know, that is amazing. Is it the Ute, Mountain Ute?
Yep.
You know, and you know what a great tribe and a great tradition. I've had a few players when I was coaching Native kids from that reservation, and they need all the help they can get. You know, I read in the newspaper today that majority of the COVID assistance federally is going to the reservations here, you know, in New Mexico, and you know, people think that, you know, because there's gaming here in the state, you know, that there's casinos, a couple of the pueblos have casinos that, you know, they're flush. You know, and it's the complete opposite of it, you know.
Well, you know, the sad piece is, Coach, honestly, I mean, you look, it's the leaders, right, that are appointed inside the reservations and some of the pueblos and the nations out there that ain't forthcoming. You know, one of the craziest things, I know you saw in the paper, but up in Gallup, they got like $4 million that are sitting in an account that hasn't got appropriated for anything. Right. And I think one of the things that kills me is that these leaders, you know, you got to kind of take things down to just common sense, right? And people always ask me, what's common sense? I said, I'm going to give you the common principle, right? Food, shelter, communication, transportation, right? If you can't have those 4 things in play, then those principles, everything else is going to be a lot harder. So I've been on my rant about there's no place in the United States that should not be without water, electricity, or bandwidth. Period.
But the challenge with that, Jack, is that you use common sense with that. And unfortunately, common sense can't be used there. When you talk about our tribal leadership, not only in this state, but tribal leadership throughout the country and the history, who teaches our tribal leaders to be leaders? Who teaches them to lead from a political standpoint? Who teaches them? I mean, how many chairmen even know how many treaties their tribe has with the government? It's like being a parent. To be a good parent, you better have had good parents, or seek out an ability or a desire to find out how to be the best that you can be. And I tell everybody when it comes to tribal leadership, okay? Let's say you have 2 candidates that are running for chairman. Both candidates are assholes. All that's going to guarantee is your chairman's going to be an asshole.
Yeah.
Where is he going to learn how to be a chairman? If you're going to be on the executive committee, because tribal politics is based on federal politics. They learn from that. And we see how well that goes, and so there's nobody teaching our leaders how to be leaders in the Native community. Even when I talk to the Native community, how many people will look at me sideways, going like, who do you think he is? He's a coach, or he's this, who's that? And who feels it? The people. The people feel it.
But I think there's an old philosophy that says, right, there's that push-pull method. And if you want things pushed upon you all the time, you're only going to be as good as what that person's pushing. But if you have more of the pull effect and you're pulling the information that you're not getting, in today's age of leadership and knowledge, you can do so much research and follow the guys that are doing the right things. So I think that whole bullshit, Coach, of sitting there and wanting people to push their thoughts, ideas upon you to teach you how to be a leader, then you're not gonna make it. You know what? I'm gonna tell you something.
Welcome to 2020 in the native politics.
Yeah, I've been pulling my whole life, and I pulled from the right resources to get where I'm sitting at right now. No one pushed it upon me, right? No teachers pushed it upon me. There's good teachers that I had that gave me an eye, but at the end of the day, we got to pull for what we want, and that's going to kind of step into it talking about. But before here, I wanted what we're going to start doing going forward on the podcast starting up is we want to shout out people that are sending out great comments, messages that I'm getting, and I'm going to start writing some stuff down and sharing it out, and really start off with that. But what I want to start off, Coach, is kind of what I was talking to you guys about. My first thing is, boundaries, right? Setting up boundaries, and how you're going to evaluate mental munchers, right? Taking that capacity from you, that energy and stuff. And so I kind of want to segue on that piece of it in life.
Mental munchers. Mental munchers. Give me an idea of what a mental muncher is.
I'm going to give you a few ideas. I'll give you a few examples, right? Let's think about this, right? You're talking to somebody, and they're trying to create an argument with you, but they have no empirical data based on the argument. So it's just like wasting water, right? It's like taking water and putting it in the pavement. I think too many times we want to talk or retaliate against stupidity, but it's who are you bouncing the ball off of, right? The next guy, mental munchers. That's gonna mental munch your whole idea. So you're looking for someone to give you the thumbs up, but their whole life's been a thumbs down. So that's counterproductive, right? Second thing is people that are just there, not really doing shit in their lives, but they got all kinds of ideas, and so they're now trying to munch off your ideas in your mental capacity. So now you're not there 100%. That's a prime example of where most people today are living, right? They're sitting with all these individuals that ain't pushing the needle whatsoever.
So an example would be people who like to talk politics or argue politics, and they don't know what they're arguing about.
Yeah, I think anyone wants to argue common sense, right? You can sit there and say 1 + 1 is 2, and then someone can come in and start, try to argue it or make it more complex, right? And saying, well, if I put parentheses and I put 0.5 plus 0.5 parentheses, then added 0.5, well, it's gonna still equal 2. But it's like taking either you're making it very complex, you're not getting to the solution immediately, right? You know what the definition of science is?
Well,
Taking everything to its simplest form.
okay.
That's what I love about being an engineer and being a science major, right? Is for me, everything is taking it to its simplest form immediately. When you become an engineer, an oath that you take is to you're there to solve problems. You either solve them, or engineer them, or find the result. You're not sitting around there talking about what you can't get done. You're looking for the results.
So mental munching is a mindset, in other words.
No, it's not even a mindset. It's kind of what. Yeah, I can say the people that are in that mental mindset, yes. But there's a lot of mental munching is kind of like being in a state of mind.
Okay.
Being a state
Not
of
a mindset, a state of mind.
a state of mind, right? Because I'm more in a mental engineering mind. That's where I kind of live. I live more from a mental engineering aspect, right? And wherever your mind starts is where your body follows, and then it creates in everybody around you. That's kind of what that's what you see in generational people just doing stupidity, right? And I think that's one thing that we got to stop now. But again, we got to take more of that pull method. I think John stepped out on this one, but I was talking about we want so much people to push information upon us so we can make a decision or become a better leader or a better student. And I said that principle ain't going to work. In life, it's about the pull method. What am I going to pull towards myself so that I can add that value to myself?
Would that classify as the want to? I want to be able to be the best engineer. I want to be able to be the best businessman. In other words, when you talk about pull or push, a teacher pushes information on you. Would you agree?
Yes.
Okay.
To an extent, I would say, yeah.
And a puller is someone that says, I'm 14 years old, 15 years old, I want to sell sneakers. How do I go about and do that?
Yes.
Yeah, and I think so too. Like even to certain extents, I think in terms of you're talking as a teacher, like you get the basic necessities, right? You get the basic things to go out and be able to do stuff. But if you want to, like you said, be the best engineer, you have to go out and do that. I mean, look at even athletes. Kobe Bryant was getting up 4 a.m. or 3 a.m. whatever it was, and going and shooting free throws. But he had to go and pull that to be able to
was at the
get
end
that
of his
practice.
career he was
Exactly,
doing that.
and that's what I'm saying. So I think that's what kind of Jack is talking about, where we have to pull to bring that extra value to make yourself great at whatever it is you're deciding to do.
Let me define the example even better than this. Okay, we're a teacher. I'm a student. Say John's my teacher. He pushes information. The bell rings. It's gone. But I want to know more about that subject. So I approach John and say, John, I heard you said this, Mr. Chavez, you laid all this out for us. But I specifically want to know about this. And how does it affect me in my life? So now I'm actually pulling the information that I want that I can apply to my daily life. So it's not just getting the basics, right? You're pulling for the information you want. And you're gonna find that mental pullers are gonna be the most successful in life, in anything.
We were just talking about this right before the show, not really realizing we were talking about this. I had mentioned, like when you talk about a teacher who's teaching you something, the teacher's going off a curriculum, right? The curriculum of whatever the subject that curriculum provides. But it might not teach you everything about that curriculum. I was mentioning in production was that during this BLM movement, there were so many things that I didn't know and names that I didn't know, should have known. I'm 57 years old. You think I would have learned this stuff, some of this stuff by now, but it wasn't because I didn't go see it. It was because I didn't go seek the knowledge. I took the knowledge that was given me and didn't go seek it, and I'm learning now at 57 about society. And is that a good example of what we're talking about?
It is. I think it is.
I think that example is a different block. That's called the cause and effect principle, right? So the actual cause and effect that pushed down to multiple people in their face because it was in their everyday lives. So one of the things is, what I'm talking about is when the cause and effect hits, you already have so much of that information. When it's rebroadcasted to you, you actually know what's going on. You can take the dialect. But I like what you touched there, Coach, and I think that's one thing about society. A lot of people don't understand. Number one thing when you go into anything, whether it's going to be your craft, know that craft inside and out, right? Know that craft inside and out in order for you to be successful. You're going to move to Orange County, California, research all about Orange County, California, so that you can understand the benefits that it could bring you or the benefits you can add to Orange. I'm not using that as an example, right? And I think you need to do that investigation for yourself, not just get there and say, I think I'm going to make it in life. And that's why I think too many people take that, I'm going to take the roll of the dice, instead of taking it from more of a...
It's like making a calculated move.
Yeah.
So how do you fit that in, say, in today's society? You know, because the two words that come to my mind is critical thought. You know, you have to have critical thought to be able to, kind of practice how you practice in what your thought process. Let's say you're hiring an engineer and you've got 4 interviewees. Apply. How would you discover who the mental muncher is of the applicants?
Well, it's beautiful about engineering. It's pretty simple, right? Because if I really want to just take you out of the interview, say you're going to say, I'm going to be a server engineer. Well, I'll just take you to the back of my lab and say, well, I want you to build this server from scratch. You know, I had this one guy come in one time. He's from California. He says, you know what? I want to make $100,000 a year. This is what I do. And I said, okay, cool. I brought it to him to the data center. And I said, can you point out to me which is the firewall? And he points, it isn't the firewall. I said, can you tell him which is the patch panel? You can't figure out the patch panel. I said, which one's the data switch? He's looking around, he's putting it off. But at this, I'm nodding my head, agreeing with them. I'm just mental fucking him the whole way, right? He didn't get one single thing correct. Right then and there, I'm like, what the hell? This is a waste of time. This is road noise, right? And so ultimately, I think most people, what they don't do is fact check. I think it was Reagan who said this. He's trust but verify. That's probably one of the best things I've ever heard in my life. Trust but verify. Someone tells me, hey, I can do this and that. Can you show me 4 or 5 examples? Sure. Okay. Now for those examples, can you give me 4 or 5 references? You see what I'm trying to tell you? Mm-hmm. And so then if you set that precedence, you're pulling that information, you know you're not going to get taken to the paint. But most people just take it for face value because they don't want to do the pull. They don't want to take that time to understand what's going on, right? And we've all made those mistakes. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that, you know, I've rolled through. I've learned from some of the hard mistakes, you know, not verifying certain things, and I end up with a bunch of bullshit, right?
Mm-hmm. Or digging deeper. One example I can relate to it is, you know, when we go to church and stuff, they'll pull up like one Bible script, right, and explain it. And, you know, our pastor was saying, you know, it's on you guys. Church is one thing, but it's on you to go home and actually study the Bible and learn it in and out. And I'm just here to give you kind of the outline of it, but it's on them to go and take it further than what we're getting just from that.
That's a pretty powerful example.
You know, and that's kind of exactly how I think, and that's what I think Jack's trying to get across too, is taking what you're getting from the teacher, whoever it may be, and getting that one seed and constantly watering it, nurturing it.
I found a great quote, and you know Steve Medina, right?
Yes.
His uncle George. Did you ever get to meet George?
I'm gonna tell you a really sad story about that before you jump in. I will let you go.
Okay, so I want to show you a quote from George, and he died in a car accident last week, 54 years old, and I'm having a tough time with it. Would you read that quote? Can you?
He is a guy.
With your mic. Get your mic.
Life is a guide. A pointer.
A teacher.
Oh, a teacher is never a giver of truth. He is a guide, a pointer to the truth that each student must find for himself. That's powerful.
Yeah, and George wrote that. So.
That's powerful. That's pretty much what we're talking about today. That's exactly the subject we're talking. So I'm going to tell you something that's really sad about this. So you guys knew I've been doing that project for my parents up in Penasco. And I built out that gazebo. Well, I ordered 8.5 yards of concrete. George is the one who actually delivered the concrete 3 days before this whole accident happened. And it's crazy because he's so charismatic.
He rolled his.
Cement truck, and he's so funny is when he first rolled up, there's only two, my cousin and Johnny, right? And he rolls up, he says, "It's only you two for 8.5 yards of concrete," and I end up showing up late, right? But the crazy part is that guy was so charismatic that he's like, "Hey, since I came in this early, do I get a tip?" And I said, "Absolutely." I said, "I'm gonna give you $100." He's like, "No, that's too much. Just give me coffee." And it was kind of funny, right? And so I remember him, but I also remember him from Steve's birthday party when he spoke. But at the time, I didn't put the two and two together. Then when I saw this whole thing, and this is what I'm saying, life is so short, right? Maximizing. I see him, we pour on Saturday, and then this incident happens like on Wednesday.
Yeah.
So the power, John, the power. Why did this quote mean so much to you as the teacher of the group?
Because I mean, I've always told my students, you don't believe a dang word I said, but go out and find your truth. So I'm going to tell you, I'm also going to provide sources, but people can still question sources, but I'm going to tell you the truth that I know. Now the curriculum gives me a framework, but then from there, I always look at that it's just a skeleton. I'm going to pack the meat on there. I'm going to pack the muscle on there and hopefully give you the things that help you remember those things. But again, it's the student that has to find their own truth and have to find their own passion within to care about things, whether it's to care about working hard to get all the financial or physical things that they want in their life or emotional things that they have to work for. I mean, they have to find that truth for themselves. So when I saw that quote, I thought that was really good.
And so the goal of today's lesson, Professor, and I call him Professor today, the goal of today's lesson is to teach different levels of boundaries.
Mental awareness, Coach. I think the boundaries, I think a lot of us, we think of physical boundaries like, I go jump in and I start taking a drink of your coffee, you might be okay with it because we're boys, but, when it's physical.
I would be okay with it.
When it's physical, some people are like, okay, you're in my space. But what you don't realize is that mental boundaries are more important than physical ones. Because those are the ones that then you start to let it happen mentally. Well, the body always follows. And I think that one of the things that I've always learned is once you think you know about me is that I keep it pretty 100. I keep it pretty black and white. Like you're never going to wake up in the morning and be like, man, I wonder where the general's at this morning, how he feels about me, right? You'll know. And I think, Carson going to attest to this. What you see is what you get. There is I don't have those ups. I don't have those downs. I'm not like one day I'm like, hey, what's up? And the next day you're like, oh man, life sucks. And I'm kind of known for being consistent. And it's all a state of zen, right?
Yeah.
It's a state of zen in my mind.
I love it that, this weekend I thought, like, I wonder where Jack is this weekend. Like, just one thought over the weekend I had. I wonder where Jack is this weekend. Like, where's my boy celebrating life, this weekend? And honest to God, I had that thought, like, where's my boy celebrating life this weekend? And I think that is important. It is important to know that, what happened to George was tragic. It happens too much. But the lesson there is, okay, how do we apply it to boundaries in life? And that boundary might be, and correct me if I'm wrong, Professor, the boundary might be we need to cross this boundary. Like, in other words, there's boundaries that we need to stop, and there's boundaries we need to overcome.
And it's like a little bit, Jordan, on how truthful this is, but one of the bad things was like, he said that, I guess what I read in the paper was this, he wasn't wearing a seatbelt. And he got ejected out of the truck, and that's what happened. So it's like, how many times have we driven around without our seatbelt? I mean, I'm fucking notorious for that shit. Yeah. Except my cars make so much noise, I got to put it on. But we feel we're invincible, right? You got that care, you just never know. And I think sometimes in life,
it killed my sister.
Yeah, what I'm trying to tell you. And here they're enforcing it. We're pissed off, but so there's certain things that are good to be enforced. And so ultimately, like, there's certain boundaries that ain't worth pushing. But that's where the mental boundaries come through. But let's say you have mental munchers in your mind, and your mind's all over the place. You're all this, and you do jump in that car, and you really don't have anything left in your reserve to say, you know, I'm gonna put that seatbelt on. As stupid as that sounds, most mistakes is when you're empty in the tank. You know, people are taking all that energy from you. And so, like, the reason I've been so deadly, and I always talk about this even from the first podcast, I said anything that ever challenges my mental freedom, physical freedom, or financial freedom, I don't need any part of it, right? Because I always want to be in a state of zen. I got to tell you a funny story this weekend, right? We're talking about, we're having a conversation with the family, and they're like, well, General, how can you be in zen when all you talk about is knocking the brakes out of people and stuff you've done? I said, that is my zen. I said, zen is not about not picking up my fist at the time. Zen is about when I'm in my mind, where's my mind state in any action that I do? Am I in chaos? Am I up and down? Am I this? No, so it's about mental zen. And at the end of the day, every decision you're making, whether it's knocking the brakes off and back in the days, was I doing it in a zen mental state? And as crazy as that sounds, right?
Yeah.
But if you're in a chaotic state, you're not going to be able to do that. You know what I'm trying to tell you?
I think you're exactly right. I mean, it is. It's about it. The one thing that I enjoy coming here, like twice I was at my ranch in Oklahoma, and Monday came and said, we got to leave because I got to do the podcast the next day. But because I enjoy being with you guys, because in my mental state, you're the only young people that I talk to. Because most of the time I won't talk to young people unless I'm in front of the class lecturing,
Yes.
you know, teaching, you know. And this allows me to come here with that mindset, those boundaries of being able to relate to you guys, relate to the thought processes. I don't come here for you to relate to me. I come here to try to relate to you guys. And by doing that, that gives me that mindset of being open a little bit more, you know, because I always tell my charge, okay, I dislike you, the young people that I talk to. And as long as I continue to dislike you, I'll love you more than Peter loves the Lord.
Yeah. You know, it's crazy, Coach, and we'll talk about this, me and Carson, is it was last weekend we did that little car show, right? It was on Saturday. And it was funny, me and him were talking about this, but, you know, me and this guy, we've had a lot of fun times. Like, talking a lot of mad shit on social media, just having fun. And we went through a point there, like, we call it like growing up. Well, he had to grow up. I'm still where I'm at. And so in those moments, you can actually put yourself with so much stress, so much deal, that you actually aren't having the same amount of fun you were having, but the elements haven't changed.
Yeah.
You know what's crazy? And so
You have
we
to
were there.
evolve.
Yeah, but you know what's crazy? Sometimes you might evolve too much to one side, and you might fuck up the sauce, right? You know, KFC has the sauce a certain type of way.
Yeah.
So you want to touch a little bit about that? Your thoughts, Carson?
Yeah, I mean, I think we kind of talked about it with a lot of stuff in general. We were on the phone that day for like 2 hours, man, just talking. But you know, we used to always go out and just do cool things, and now I think a lot of the energy and everything we were kind of just saying has shifted, you know, the world, like the way everything has changed,
Yeah,
and the
no
way
doubt.
2020 has been, and we're like, you know, what the heck is going on? There's just a different feel in the air right now with the whole world, and I'm pretty sure everyone's feeling it, and it's just kind of changed a lot of ways. I think a lot of the stress has been pulled on people, and it's changed the way things have been.
I think that's cool though, but it has to change. You know what I'm saying? You know, when I was with my boys, it was when I was your guys' age. You know, he's the next generation above. I'm the next generation above him. You know, you did things like that when you were young, and you know, the wind's going through your hair when you're going full speed.
Yeah.
You know, and you have a blast when you do that. But we evolve, right? And so I was doing exactly what I wanted to do this weekend, having a blast, say the way you guys were having a blast. I was just sitting down, smoking a cigar and having a scotch with good friends.
Yes.
Like-minded friends.
Yes.
And we're sitting down, not going 1,000 miles an hour, but yet going 1,000 miles an hour. If you
No, I get what you're saying.
you know,
Yeah.
if you kind of get my drift. Like, I wouldn't want to do what you guys do. It's too fast for me now. You know what I'm saying? I don't fit in a Lambo. I can't, like, and go, I'd be shitting my pants going, and you guys probably go, I don't know how Coach could just sit there, have a scotch and smoke a cigar and,
and that's something I told Jack too, he's like, he talks a lot about the shrimp cocktail and he's like, yeah, it just hasn't been the same. And I said, I kind of feel that way too. Like I really like just sitting outside in the front yard and at the sunset.
When I was
just,
your age, I'll tell you what, and me and my friends joke about this all the time. When I was your age, I'm telling you, the show The Jersey Shore stole our lifestyle.
I was hooked on that. Every Sunday I was on there.
Lifestyle because we were doing that 20 years before that show ever came out.
Coach is getting a tan on.
Oh yeah.
Tan lawn.
And the smush room and we were doing that 20 years down the Jersey Shore.
Yeah.
All our my cousins, my friends, every summer we'd rent a summer rental.
Yeah.
We would rent like a 3-bedroom apartment,
that's cool,
and
man.
every weekend there'd be 40, 50 people sleeping, all over the place. You had to walk over bodies, because the only thing you needed the house for is to lay your head down. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? When I was your age, my cousin had a boat that we used to take out every summer, and the name of the boat was Muff Diver. The name of the boat. Literally, it said Muff Diver, Belmar, New Jersey. And then we all had shirts that had Muff Diver on it.
That's
and
funny.
it had to be the gayest looking thing ever. Because every weekend we'd all be down at Jersey Shore. We'd have 20 guys on the boat.
Shoot.
A sausage party.
Yeah.
Like 20 guys on the boat. The boat would be like at water level. We had so many guys on the boat, But it was the best.
Yeah.
I mean, it was the best. And what would happen is by the time August would come around, we'd all be done. Mm-hmm. Like you couldn't do
Tapped
it anymore
out,
because you just couldn't do that stuff anymore.
Hey, the liver was taxed out.
Exactly. And it was I couldn't ask for a better 20s.
Yeah.
Couldn't ask for it better than that. Like sitting on the Garden State Parkway, going down the shore, bumper to bumper, take you 2.5 hours to go, 3 hours to go on a 45-minute drive or an hour drive. But you knew you were going to be, it was just about being young. Mm-hmm. And so when I was talking about these boundaries that we're talking about today, this weekend with Bobby and Phil, I was telling them if someone came to me and said, if my doctor came to me and said, listen, Coach, your lungs are really bad. You got to give up cigars. Thank you for the advice, but fuck you.
Yeah, you're gonna do what you.
I'm going out the way I want to go out.
Yeah.
If my doctor said, listen, you're pre-diabetic.
Well, that's the same.
You got to give up the pasta. Sorry, doc. Orion is in his junior year. Give me another year. Let him get out on his own. And I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? My point being is, at my age, I was telling Phil and pointing at the mountain, well, I'm on the other side of the mountain. If I was on this side of the mountain and the climb, you guys are on the climb still. I'd say, okay, well, I got to slow it down a little bit.
Yeah.
I got to, because I want to get to the other. Well, I'm on the other side of the mountain now.
Yeah.
QTL, quality time left. That's what's important to me.
Right.
What's my quality time left? So if they said you can't drop it, you can't have a scotch, fuck you.
I'm going for it, baby.
And that's the thing too, like so much people are scared to do certain things. And it's like, yeah, there's of course a boundary that shouldn't be crossed, but it's like, would you rather do what you love and live to your 30, or would you rather live to 100 and do nothing?
Right.
You know what I mean?
And that's the whole point of what we have to figure out, because I ain't getting no younger. We have to figure out how do we make a difference? Like, I want to make a difference with what I got left. People are going, hey, Coach, you're going to coach again. Hey, Coach, what, and I think well,
there's still so much.
Why do I
look at
wanna
the
coach
KFC
again?
story, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's huge. How old was he when KFC?
65.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So he's he's older than you. He had more Christmases than you, Coach. So, the guy from KFC, he was like, hey, I'm just getting started, and Coach is ready to go over the...
No, don't get me wrong. No, I'm not saying I'm ready to go to the... I'm not saying that.
I get you.
I'm ready to go on my terms.
Yeah.
That's what I'm ready to go. Now, Do I want to go? Hell no. I'd love to stay another 40 years, but on my terms.
Yeah.
If you tell me you're going to live another 40 years, but it's got to be on these terms to live 40 years, I'd say no. I'll live 30 years on these terms.
But the crazy thing is, with you having that mentality, you may be able to do it and still live even longer than 40 years.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the mental power too.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not ready to check out. But if we're all going to check out, we saw it by George. We don't know when we're checking
We can
out.
go outside and drive out of here.
We don't
and,
know
he's just-
when it's our time. But when it's my time, I want to go on my terms, my boundaries. I want to go on my boundaries. I want to set my boundaries.
Well, I
Coach
just want to
wants
check
Josh.
out in style, dude. You know what I mean?
Well, we know you're
well, I'm
going to
gonna
check out
check out
in style. Here's
in
the thing, though. Bro, we better not be reading 2 years from now. There's this Lamborghini, going 150 down 25, and it turns out to be... I sent you an article this week, which, by the way, you didn't even respond.
You know why? Let me tell you.
You didn't even respond. I
Yeah,
took the
we
time
were-
to say.
I felt the energy when I walked in too. Coach is mad.
You didn't even.
He's
You didn't
sensitive.
even
I love
respond.
Coach. You know why I didn't respond, Coach? Can I tell you why? Because I wanted to have this dialogue with you today. Honestly.
He wanted the aggression.
No. The reason I didn't respond.
Did you think I was a little aggressive?
No,
coming in?
I'm just talking
okay.
smack.
Yeah, he knows he's not talking. He's kind of scared, Coach. He's. Someone
He's
tell you
not
something.
scared. Carson's not.
Let me-
He's been
let me-
hanging out with you too long.
Hey, let me tell you something.
You've taught him too well.
That article, when I saw that article, right, and I looked at it, and I wasn't going to respond. What I want to say is that fucker's a moron, right? But I didn't want to say that, right? So let me tell you something.
Well, I sent it with laughing emojis.
Yeah.
faces. I
No,
said
but I'm going to tell you, let's talk a little about that. That's exactly what we're talking today about boundaries, right? I'm going to tell you a story. So I used to have a one of a kind. They bred an American bulldog. And you don't know if you've seen those things, they're pretty big.
Oh yeah.
And a mastiff, right? And they trained him out for me. And, this guy's trained this dog. And I remember the dog trainer comes to me, and I paid, I'm not going to tell you how much I paid, but I paid I'm going to tell you this, I paid some coin for this thing. And so he was a trained guard dog. This is the way he put it to me. He says he's a trained attack / guard dog.
Boss.
And he laid it
Do me
down.
a favor. Dump that out. Give me some. Keep going. Keep going. Give me some
He laid it
ice.
out like that, right?
Ice.
And he says, but I'm going to tell you something right now. And I said, what's that? He says, there's two things. He says, right now, because you don't get them as puppies, right? They're kind of like in that teenager year. And he says, but this dog is not your friend right now. This dog only knows that you're part of his pack, and he's going to want to fight you for who's alpha. And if he doesn't get that, if he dominates you for alpha, this is a dangerous animal. Your best bet is to put him down.
Yeah.
This is the talk I get, right? So I got to tell you a funny story.
Real deal.
I mean, this is a real deal, right? So this guy gets up. At the time, he's about 90 pounds. He's going to get up to about 110, 120. This guy's all steel. So we're standing outside. We're messing around. And he had a bad day or something. He shows me his teeth. And I'm like, holy shit, okay, this guy showed me his teeth. And when I got close to him, he actually was going to react. And I said, this son of a bitch. So,
He's
what?
testing you. That's
So
all.
I went inside the house. I got the 45, put it behind. I cocked it, put it behind my thing, and I grabbed him from the collar, picked him up, and I choke slammed him on the concrete. And everybody's all freaked out. I think it was child abuse, right? Or animal abuse. I look at him, I said, you ever show me your teeth, and I'll blow you away. You know what? Best dog I ever had in my life.
Yeah.
But the boundary is this, look. And going to what we're talking about, in life, if we push the wrong boundary and we're not prepared, it could cost us our life, right?
I'll give you a great example of that. Dogs give you. For 30 years I've had Rottweilers. Okay, my first Rottweiler ever. I'm a young guy. I'm younger than you when I had my first Rottweiler, and I'm thinking this is my dog. I'm selfish with him. Didn't let nobody pet him. Didn't bring him around people. Didn't bring him around the different things. And he grew up to be a mean dog.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have a mean dog, now all you got to worry about is him biting somebody.
Yep.
Now you're worrying about liability. It was a pain in the ass because anybody that was near him, he didn't accept.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're talking about a Rottweiler, didn't understand what I was a bad owner. Because those are a beautiful breed. Mm-hmm. And so when I went to somebody who knew about the breed and stuff and taught me, man, he said, you just raised them wrong, man. You fucked up. Mm-hmm. You got to raise them the opposite. And so every while they're there afterwards, like, we would bring them to my wife's school and let them hang out with the students.
Yeah.
We would bring, to let everybody pet them, to let everybody, because what are what's in their DNA? They're alphas. Well, an alpha will only understand from another alpha, or he's the master.
Yeah.
So I even learned when I would take my dog for a walk, he's got to walk behind me. Because when an alpha
they have
dog,
to.
when you take him for a walk and you let him
If you let
lead,
him walk in front of
he
you, yeah.
thinks he's the boss.
Exactly.
He thinks he's leading the pack. And you're part of that pack.
Yep.
So it's not animal abuse. How do you teach an alpha to be an alpha? Well, how do they learn? Well, they teach you to be an alpha if they can get their teeth on your throat. Right?
Yep.
Those breeds and stuff
Yep.
like that. And so that's how how do you communicate with somebody? You communicate with them in their own language.
In their own language.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
In their own language. And so people that can say, well, that's animal abuse, bullshit, know your boundary, because if you don't do that, this dog may be biting your ass 2 years from today.
Yep.
If
Or worse, killing somebody,
Exactly.
a kid or something, in your
Exactly.
family.
If
And
he
so it's
gets
a-
out, yeah.
It's a tough situation, right? And I think that's what I think about the boundary
Thank you,
situation.
brother.
Is most people don't know boundaries. They just don't know boundaries, right? And I again, touching on that, on what we're talking about, Carson. So Tyson, as funny as the shrimp cocktail, right? And so the shrimp cocktail is, I used to tell him, I've achieved so much monetary success. Nothing really kind of gets me fired up. I'm excited. Don't get me wrong. I'm not like, oh shit, whatever. But my famous line was on Fridays, or it was Fridays and like Thursdays, right?
Yeah.
I'd always go get shrimp cocktails to come in. That was my main thing. And I knew that I wanted to get the big prawns. And it didn't matter if they were $3, $6, $10. I've been in Miami where they're $10 a prawn. I don't give a shit. Give me a plate of prawns,
Hey,
right?
Taro, dude.
But yeah. And that was the thing for me, is that, you know what? I don't have to look at the price tag. If I want 10 prawns, I'm going to get them. So it's comes
I'm
back to that.
57 years old, don't even know what a problem is.
That's like saying, what do you get like a multi-millionaire for Christmas, right?
Here, I found
Jackson's shrimp cocktail.
Look at what you guys were
wants
just
to get
talking about. I'm gonna play this quote here. I'm gonna put this meme on here that.
If I'm feeling, you're so right though. If I'm feeling good on the weekend, you're right. Like, shrimp is a weekend thing. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
if I'm feeling good and me and my wife eat shrimp, we'll go, oh, let's
Get some shrimp. Isn't it
let's get
just
some shrimp.
see that?
It's exactly right. If we're not feeling good, if we're not feeling, Indian way we call it cashy. If we're not feeling cashy, we'll keep away from the shrimp. Like, the shrimp is our, is our extravagance.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I found, and I had trouble putting it up there, but it says they're not dangerous if you raise them right, and it shows a dog and a child.
Yes.
And it says neither are dogs. So
imperative,
it's the same with children.
Yeah.
If you raise your children the correct way, they're not going to come shoot up a school. They're not going to go shoot up a
The only
movie theater.
difference I would say with a dog and a kid, right?
Yeah.
A dog, an alpha, you're talking a Rottweiler, a pit bull, a Mastiff, a bulldog or whatever. You have to master that.
Oh, no doubt.
You have to master. A kid, you can't master. You can't go pow with the kid like you can with the dog.
Yeah.
Like, I remember in my family, we had a Rottweiler. His name was Sakima.
No
which in
animals
native
were harmed
term
in this
is
podcast.
king. He was a king, and he was 150 pounds, 160
Holy
pounds,
shit.
right? And so one day, we
philosophy.
kept him on a 25-foot fixed chain, right? And he gets away, right? And I got to go after him. And he's 155 pounds, and I'm yelling at him. He runs off our property, our ranch, which is like 400 acres. He runs to the next property.
Holy
He
shit.
knows exactly what he's doing. He knows exactly. I get to the boundary of ours where he's at, and I'm going, get over there, get over. And he's just the look. He's just giving me the look. Come get me. Come get me. And this is the first time ever he's not coming. He knows what he's doing. I got to walk all the way back to the house. I get some food. right? I got to walk all the way back where he is. Now, the only thing he didn't see was I had a 2x4, I had food in one hand and a 2x4 in the other. And when I stuck out the food, he came. And when I tell you, I clocked him with that bow, 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 bow. He was like, oh, and he ran home because he knew. Like, he ran where he was supposed to go.
Yep.
And he knew, you know. And if you were there and you witnessed that, you might say, thank you. The boss just walked in.
You know, just
My
felt,
boss.
you know,
My
just
boss
felt, you know,
walked
just
in.
felt like
That's
that
why Coach
today.
said straight up.
You know who felt like that? Like that when coaches talked about food in one hand, a 2x4? Dr. Dre. He just got divorced today, took him for $400 million. That's how he felt. You know what I mean? His wife had food in one hand, him with a 2x4. You know, I said that's how Dr. Dre felt.
Half, Eddie.
about that one, too.
Half.
You imagine that shit?
Bezos went through that too, man.
Something about that. I'm like, but Dr. Dre ain't gonna come back like Bezos, right?
That's
'Cause
true.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things. It's just,
She waited for that Dre Beats to
Yeah.
get bought out by Apple.
yeah. And he
The
got
big
changed.
contract.
The big. It's how he felt, Coach. That's exactly how he felt.
Now, my next dog, did I tell you what my next dog is?
What is?
I'm getting him at the end of the summer. I'm breaking a 30-year tradition, which is always Rottweilers. My last Rottweiler got hit by a car 2 months ago.
man.
2 months ago, and unfortunately, was his demise.
He's getting him at ParisHilton.com.
My
what I'm
wife,
thinking. I'm
my
waiting for
wife
it.
swore it off. My wife said no more.
Jack rubbed
she
off
said,
on
no
him.
more, no more. I can't take this. I'm not. It hurt her when she lost the dog because at home it's her and the dog. You know, and that's her roommate at home because you know we're here. Let's see if you heard this dog. My nephew breeds, and so my nephew gifted him to me, and it's called a South African
Borbell.
Borbell.
I bred him.
He breeds them.
I used to. I used to breed
That's
him.
what I'm getting.
That's I used
That's
to
what my
give it
nephew
to my
breeds.
friend, our close friend
He
Michael.
breeds. He gave me a choice. He has 2 breeds that he breeds.
His is like a
Connie
$1.80.
Corsos and Borbals.
Well, you better have a horse trailer to be able to take
Yep.
him to the vet because that's how Mike has to take his
Wow.
his dog to the horse
So
trailer.
funny story, you know, John, I didn't know this. He texted me because I was going to get a dog like Mike, but you got to have the mini horse trailer for reals. I think that thing is at 200 pounds or 240,
Big boy.
something stupid, right?
Depending on the parents.
I remember you said that you were gonna get one from
No,
Doug.
no, yeah, I didn't put the two together.
He sent me a picture, okay, originally of it, and said, "This is the dog for you. This is what I'm getting," because he's a breeder, and it had a scar on the back of his hip from like his hind quarter all the way to his belly, and I went thinking he had surgery. So I said, "Does he have bad hip? Like what is that big scar that you know?" He said he got into a fight. So what the heck did he get into a fight with that he got a scar like that? I said a lion. He got in a fight with a lion.
That's what they're bred for.
Yeah.
They're bred to protect the farms of South Africa. And
Yeah.
the Boers of South Africa, they took them from like the English Mastiffs,
Yep.
and they bred them to be shorter and stronger so that they could defend their farms down in South
That's
Africa.
crazy.
And he's promised me they're the sweetest breed.
Oh yeah, no, they're
Yeah,
Promised
they're
me
really
the
sweet.
Sweetest breed.
But I'm going to tell you something,
Sam's
Coach.
But I'm not getting him here for Albuquerque, guys.
They eat a shitload.
I'm gonna.
Oh, no.
I got one of those already that lives with me.
No,
his
they-
name is
and-
Orion.
and they-
you know, so I'm used to that eating the shit.
He's going to eat over Orion.
I was. You know, he's. I'm getting him for the ranch in Oklahoma.
no, they're
He's not
amazing
gonna
dogs.
beat
Yeah, no,
That's
and-
cool.
You know, and so teaching them boundaries. Now let's get back to boundaries. You gonna bring 5 principles.
Yeah, you had superficial networking events.
So let's
Do you
go
wanna
over
talk about that?
principle number 1.
So let's talk about this, right? You know, people, you know, always come in, they think they got to, like, impress people. I get calls all the time saying, General, I'm going to have this meeting and I want to do this, this, and this. And what people don't realize is that nobody really gives a shit what's on the outside, because if you start putting too much sauce, you forget the meats of life, right? And I'm going to tell you something. I personally used to do them a little bit because I really didn't want to, but I just did it. And I'm talking about superficial, right, events, networking events. I mean, they're just a waste of freaking time. And so what I've always found is you got guys in there giving their resume, you know, kind of like how you felt on the boat, you know, but you were having fun, right? But instead there's 20, 30 guys, sausage party, giving their resume. And I always felt like they were trying to date me, because I was like, you're giving me this resume, and then so what do you do? And it was funny because my famous line would be is, I try to do little as nothing. And they would still be pressing me, right? And I would shut guys down. I'd be like, dude, I don't want to tell you. I'm trying to eat a sandwich here. I'm just trying to enjoy life. I don't give a crap. And so they would just kind of push along. And I started to feel this is my cup of tea. This isn't how I rock, right? And so that's a waste of time. And so I'm telling you right now, people think they're networking, but all they're doing is wasting time. Because what you'll realize as time passes, people are going to like you for two reasons, right? Reason number one is what you can bring the value to their life. Reason number two, if you're a good counselor. So bottom line, those two things right there's a very thin line of where it could all go to shit.
Do you often have people who, and no names, but do you have people that want to jump on the bandwagon?
Oh, come on. I got a lot of groupies.
When I was the head coach of the Gladiators and, you win a couple of championships, I had people that wanted to hang out with Coach, and now that it's, I'm 6 months removed from it now, I don't hear from some of those people. Now, my circle I still hear from, and hang out with. But, do people want to get on that general bandwagon and go, hey man, let's try to develop a relationship?
Carson, why don't you answer that question for us?
Yeah, there definitely are. I mean, he tells me because I've seen too so much of that, and I would say it's kind of slowed down a little bit though, because we haven't been like we say riding our bikes in the streets.
No, I don't think. I think it's because we haven't been on the scene.
Yeah, we haven't really taken the cars out as much, and then this last week, 2 weeks ago, we took the cars out, and it kind of sparked up again, but.
I've been trying to jump on Jack's bandwagon now for about 5 years.
Well, you said
and
you
he
can't
won't
fit
let
in
me.
the Lambo,
He
so
won't
I
let
don't
me.
know.
But you know what I did? I'm going to borrow the same horse trailer that Michael's using so I can haul Coach being me in the back of the Lambo. But I'm going to get that Lambo SUV.
He's going to get the Lambo truck now so Coach can roll with us.
Exactly.
But yeah,
Coach.
there's still a lot of people that will do that, and to talk to kids, like kids watching now, you have to come with value. You can't just come and say oh yeah, this guy's got cool cars or anything. You have to look past that and look to an actual relationship. And that's the thing with networking events too. I think they can be effective if you do your research and have the right intentions.
I think even with Jack, I was very cognizant of the fact, and one thing that I understood, when you coach a long time and you have the network that I have, there's many times I've seen people would love just to be around John Harbaugh, and just be around, that, I'm cognizant of that fact. And so when I would get together with Jack, my concern was if he saw Coach call, was what does Coach want?
Yeah,
that would be my concern.
That's
what
like
90%.
I mean,
and I
could
would
say
want
right or
him
wrong,
to think that way,
but that's the way people in that realm are. Even when you look at celebrities or anything like that, if you go, like I watched Kevin Hart's latest podcast with Joe Rogan, and he's like, yeah, I'm totally fine with the fans, but if I'm trying to go to the restroom and you follow me in there and you're trying to talk to me, or say you want a picture, I would rather much have you shake my hand.
Yeah.
And address me like a person instead of saying, oh, Kevin, get this picture with me, and then just say goodbye. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's.
By the way, you and I and John Harbaugh have LinkedIn, man.
I know.
We drink a Sia, man. The three of us, we drink a Sia. I don't look as good as you and Harvs, though. So I'm going to double down on
You're gonna have to.
Sia.
It's because you know what
I
I'm
don't
doing.
look as good as you
Let
and
me tell you my
Harvs.
secret. I'm just throwing that shit all over myself. You know what I mean? I'm saying,
He fills the tub up with it.
Yeah, I'm just, I can't let these guys outdo me, so I'm gonna just throw that shit on me.
But that's what it is. I think a lot of people have lost touch of why you're really going out there and trying to meet people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's having that, treating them like a human being, go out and just meeting them. Don't say, oh yeah, there's what I could do for you. What can you do for me? And from a want state, you never want to do that. And that's what, it's right or wrong, that's what 90% of people that try to get in close to Jack will do.
Let's talk about you then. Let's talk about the boundaries of you, okay? Has your network, or maybe your secondary network away from this, right? How do you decide, like, who do I bring close to Jack? Who do I not bring close to Jack?
Man, that's kind of a tough one. I just really gauge people and their intentions and where they're at. I mean, there's one thing to post a picture and be at Jack's Man Cave and just trying to do it for likes on Instagram. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's kind of where a lot of kids are right now, is they just want that clout is what everyone's saying, or they want that to say like, yeah, I'm here,
That
I'm cool.
influence, yeah.
And you can tell the difference, because is that same person willing to go out and freaking dig a ditch with Jack
Absolutely.
and then have to go to a dinner? Are you willing to pack 3 different pairs of clothes? You know what I mean? And that's the truth. And that's how it was when I first got with Jack. Is, you know, the first time I hung out with him, I didn't even get to go in the car. He made me like work.
Is that you establishing boundaries? Is that
and who's the
establishing
alpha?
boundaries?
Coach, let me tell you something. What I learned. I want to send a quick little shout out. You guys see the YM logo out there with the red, right? And so there's this young guy named Elijah Mendez. I'm gonna send him out there. I gave him an assignment, and I said, you know what? I want you to watch these podcasts, and then I want you to give me an essay. The sucker sent back 4 pages.
Nice.
Right. And that the only thing is, and then he sent out some shirts that have that logo. And so I told him one day, I said, I'm not taking any groupies or any of that stuff. But what I like is I like to see when people are like, well, what can I do for you? Well, you know, we needed that logo. We liked that logo, brought some swag. Same thing with Carson. He made all these shirts one time, had the hats. We're about to just blow up this brand. But it's all about timing, right? And getting the productions. But what we realize is, and he knows this, and he actually already had this ingrained, is when we were going out there, it wasn't like I was actually fucking putting him through the ranks. It's like the universe, I needed to get that shit done. And if you know something about me, I'm super productive. Like, if you know me, I'm up at 4:30 every single morning. And I might get up, you know, take a piss, take a couple little nap, then I'll get up. But I'm never past 4:45, just period. I'm up. And I'm consistent. And so what I like to do, well, I don't think I like to do it, but I just do it, is I'll attack the yard 3 times out of the week. Pulling weeds, cutting grass, doing shit. And if you all know this shit, I got the means to have a full-time gardener if I wanted to, sitting in the back. But it keeps that hunger. And I'm getting a workout, and I'm just like, it just keeps that hunger, right? And I kill the killer instinct. So when he was out there helping me doing stuff, I wanted to see the attention to detail that he was doing, but it was actually the need, but it's bringing that value. So we're digging the hole, the hole's being dug faster. So automatically, the way I am, you know, I live by a golden rule that I created. My golden rule is this: if you give me a quarter, I'll give you 50 cents back. If you take a quarter from me, I'll take $1. That's just how I'm wired.
Right.
And so one of the things with him is that he was always bringing that value. And so I had that system and said, you know what? This guy's coming up. He's got a good little job. But you know what? I'm going to reward him in ways that most guys won't even see. Even guys that are doing super well. That's why we'd go on these big monster trips. But I would say, you know what? You're going to have to show your weight. You got McDonald's tomorrow. Because I want to breed a man. And so my goal was not only going to be a man, but I'm going to be a warrior. And so I'm going to teach him all the fundamentals of what a real man has to be like in business. And you never want to take this. I'm going to give you a prime example. Yesterday we rode with a guy from Sparrow Group. We partnered up with him. He's a Native American, this company, and he bought his wife's Yukon. And so we stopped at U Nation, and the restaurants are all shut down, or we don't know what's going to happen. It's kind of a weird environment now. And so we stopped at this restaurant. We got these chicken fingers, and they were freaking amazing, right? So we're in the back, and my sales guy's with me, and we're eating, and the seat's all fucked up. So I try to sweep it off, and it got in my mind. So he drives off, so I call him and said, hey, I left my mask in your truck. And he's like, don't you have another mask? I said, no, come back. I didn't leave the mask in the truck. The mask was in my pocket. When he came back, I had the vacuum ready, hot water, Mr. Clean the thing. I vacuumed the shit out of the back of his thing and wiped the seats down. Because my whole thing was, that shit would fucking piss me off. So how could I lay that kind of boundary for myself?
The expectation.
You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, you got to follow what you teach.
And so that's just who I
That's
am.
a powerful story.
So, dude, you know, he walked away, and the guy in the front was like freaked out. And his story, we're gonna bring him on the podcast here in the next couple of weeks, because his story is holy shit. Talk about coming from the bottom to the top When you hear his story,
I want
Coach,
to hear a story.
his story is going to blow
wanna
you.
hear it. I
It's
wanna
going to
hear
blow
it.
you away.
I want to hear it.
And
There's no doubt.
and when I
And the people that you brought on have blown me away.
this guy's story is going to blow all the stories. This is very similar to the guy that I brought from the barbershop. But his story, if he feels strong and he wants to get it out there, it's talk about no excuses. Talk about going against all the odds in life.
Wow.
And so,
I want to know a story. I don't know if I can wait now.
and so, Coach, when I thought about that, right, it is what it is, and what right is right, wrong is wrong. Period. So it's all about never losing that edge and stuff. And so, what I'm in the position in my life now, and I always thought about this when I used to meet with you, Coach. I never ever felt this. What does this guy want to take me for, or this? And I know originally, we're talking about sponsorships and all that. But when I give you the facts on why I wasn't there, you weren't all pissed off like, "Oh, dude, I can't get money from this guy." Could I?
Yeah, no, I never
No, never.
Nor was I disappointed.
No,
nor was
no.
and only because I knew that. I think I've said it here before. When we met, you would give me advice that would blow me away for a young guy. Would just blow me away. Whenever you meet those people like that, you want to be networked with them.
Mm-hmm.
You want to be able to, to be able to have some form of contact so they can teach you.
Mm-hmm.
Because anybody can teach you if you're a good student.
And you gotta-
if you be like Walter.
And you got to imagine this, Coach. When I met you, I was 34 years old.
Exactly.
You imagine that shit?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This is
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
and I was pushing the needle
Yeah.
far beyond where it's at. I mean,
Yeah.
I've been at the same level for, a long hell of a
no
run.
doubt. No doubt.
And when you look at that,
I'm glad I'm glad you could say that because, like I said, I would, I could only imagine. I have friends in high places, and I see people wanting to jump on the bandwagon, and my friends having to protect themselves on who they can let in, who
Yeah,
they can't
it's true.
let in, and not being pie-eyed or not being stuck up, but literally having to protect themselves on who they let in, their reputations or whatever, whatever it is.
value.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're going to try, go ahead.
I think for me too, tying into the pushing boundaries and everything, and then when, of course, I started spending a lot of time with Jack. For me, it was I want to see if I can work as hard as this guy can, to test myself and test my boundary to see, do I have what it takes to achieve the massive success that he has. And I think a big thing that has kind of built me to do that is basketball, because ever since I was young, I'd always watched the older kids play or wanted to play with the older kids because they were more advanced than the people that I was playing with, or the certain league group that I was in or anything like that. And that's what I think has been a big tactic for me, to go out and see, like even when I was 6th grade, I'd want to practice with the varsity kids, you know what I mean? Just to see where that skill level was. And same thing with Jack. I wanted to test myself and see, do I have the work ethic that this individual has?
And I'm sure that still challenges you. Mm-hmm. Can I do this? Where am I going to be when I'm 30?
Oh yeah.
Right? Because where's he going to be when he's 45 or 50?
Mm-hmm.
That's when you're in a good network, when your network can push you and drive you, and that's where you can get something special. These are two entirely different lines of work, and that's where it affects each other. I can tell you that, without a doubt. I would look for assistant coaches that had that same, that same hunger that I had. But they didn't have to do it my way. They had to, if they believed so mightily in their way, I wanted that. I wanted that individualism. I wanted that, that drive in somebody that said, hey, man, I want to be with Coach because Coach expects the best out of me.
And what's the funny part for me? This may sound crazy, but I wanted to actually be the guy who's buying the McDonald's breakfast. And so when I really focus, when I want people to bounce that success, I look at time periods. So let's think about this. And this is really how I really think. I bring a young guy up the table and I says, my whole goal is, what's the goal? That I'm sitting at your fucking table for Christmas or Thanksgiving or what it is, or you got the yacht or you got whatever, but it's my turn now to be the passenger. I'm okay with that because I don't want to be in the battle all the time. It's that whole thing is, you look at the Spartans, you want to build these great soldiers So even as a leader, you can sit back, and one day you're not sitting back in the chair because you can't thrust that sword. You're sitting there because you don't have to. The soldiers are tearing it up, or they're even past you. And I think that's always been one of my goals. Always been is that empower everyone around me that I want for my own selfish reasons. I want them to strike to the next level, but I'm gonna trust me. I'm good at reminding. I'm gonna say, yeah, remember that time you sucked your A, B, and C? Well, fuck, I'm expecting dividends. So don't think this was I may be Catholic and shit, but I'm gonna tell you something. What I do for humans, I'm expecting. So, it's that kind of that thing. And I think one of the things that I really liked about Carson, when he started tearing it up, we're in Vegas, and I got to bring it next time and show you guys. He's like, hey, do you want to? He got me this badass pen. This thing's $1,000 pen, right? But it was his way of showing, I appreciate you, because my famous line is, I just sign checks, right? But when you think of stuff like that, you're like, hey, you know what? It ain't about the pen. It could have been a fucking $50 pen for all I give a shit about. But you look at when people are giving back a dividends to what you put into them. And that's what I've done with a lot of my mentors in my life, right?
Yeah, no doubt. Even with me wanting, because if you can get that network, and I'm sure, in your small circle, you have people like Carson who are like-minded in that way, which also spurs the teacher on. There were times where, my coach is here in Albuquerque, and the reason why I'm still here in Albuquerque is because of the people that are in my circle. Mm-hmm. That's the reason why, because, it's so rare to get a circle like that. You know what's crazy, Coach?
I gotta say, it's sad for me. I won't mention the names, but I got, I'm based on the two circles. I really don't have a lot of people that bring a lot of value in my circles of life.
There were times where, yeah.
And I think the thing is, the sad piece about it is like, I'm always in the position where people are looking at me to deposit in them, and it gets fucking tiresome. And this is why sometimes I kind of go back into the situation where I'm at. We used to laugh because Sundays is laundry day for me, right? And I love doing laundry. I have a system, right? And so it was like the system never changes down to the minute. And these guys, he'd come over, and we, at the time we had a guy named Mike, and Mike would hang out with us, and we'd be laying on the couches talking shit, washing laundry, but talking about life, decompressing. Because you got to think about this. In my position, whether I'm at Harmonics or in my personal life, I'm always expected to perform. Yesterday, I was expected to perform.
Good.
I'm always expected to perform.
Good point. Exactly right. Good point.
Sometimes I don't want to fucking perform.
Exactly.
What I'm trying to tell you? And that's okay. And I'm at the point in my life when I go to the shrimp cocktail, I don't want to fucking perform. It's a funny thing I always tell this guy, and I place it to him self-consciously. I said, get a big fucking car so I can sit in the back. And what that's saying is, the reason what I'm really telling you from a neuro-linguistic programming, I don't want the fucking driver's seat, and I don't even want the passenger. I want the back. So you don't gotta count on me to be the driver nor the passenger. I'm sitting in the back. You see what I mean? I think that's kind of the mindset that I'm, Coach. Where I'm at is, when I turn on the heat and I want to hit the success fast. I mean, it's in the height of my career, of my life. I generate, I'm going to lay it out there, $500,000 to $700,000 a month. I did that for many years. Now, I really don't care. I really don't. I was sitting the other day, I was like, you know what? If I just shrimp cocktailed it and Dom Perignon it out, and I went on in the internet, I was bored as fuck yesterday, and I ordered all kinds of bottles of Pappy Van Winkle. I don't even drink that shit. I just got bored. I said, but I like to see my friends smile. Right, that they're drinking some badass, because I really don't drink. I think I've got a alcohol intolerance now. I don't know, it's weird. But the bottom line is, I'm about giving people experiences that they've never had for themselves. So just to give them that taste, so that they can go to the next level on their own. And then I'm gonna jump on their fucking coattail. I don't got a problem with that. Right.
Let's go to boundary number 2.
Yeah. So going incredible lengths to please people.
Huge. And this is what I was telling this guy when he called me today. People go out there, and either they're going to accept you for who you are, they're going to accept you for your C game, B game, or A game. If you got someone that you got to go over the fucking way so he's happy with you, or her, or whatever, family member, you got to cut them the fuck out of your life. Because I'm going to tell you something. Can you be on performing 24/7? You're going to burn yourself out. And so, if you know that whole story, if you're a female and you got to have your hair on and your makeup on and 12% body fat, and that's the only way that guy's gonna like you, well, get rid of that fuck, because I'm telling you right now that's just superficial. Because someone that's gonna love you is gonna love you through everything, goods, bads, and different. 10 pounds over, maybe not 10 pounds over, but we'll go 5. But
5.
But the thing is about life is that at the end of the day, and if you got a friend who only wants you there when you're taking him in the Lambos or the experiences or the jets and all that shit, get rid of that fucker too. But I learned at an early age as a young man, and God got me a trick, is I told you guys when I was little, and I had the biggest bag of marbles, and my best friend told my rival where my marbles were. They stole my bag, and they broke the best marble I had, which was this Cleary. And I was so fucking devastated and pissed, I couldn't believe it. To this day, it scarred me, right? Here I am. And I went home and cut some trees and made a set of nunchucks and beat the shit out of them. And, when I really think about that, I thought myself, I will never put myself in a position again where I will put myself out there that anyone knows the secret that can devastate me. So right, wrong, or indifferent, I always never give more of myself than I'm not expected to lose. So if you take that from me, I'm willing to part with it. So at the end of the day, I'll know where it is. And I was in this last year, I was pretty devastated. I was pretty side hit by an individual I really thought was really in my bank, was really behind me. But you know what? I just shook it off. And said, okay, I know where I stand.
How do you shake it off? We're just keeping on what we're talking about.
Coach,
how do you shake it off and not let it affect
it's funny,
other
Coach.
things?
I don't want to take my shirt off over here, but if I took my shirt off, you'll see some pretty massive scars, right? I've been shot, I've been stabbed, I got all kinds of shit, but I'm going to tell you one thing. When you've already faced that experience, right, once, and then the next guy gives you a small one or whatever, you already know what extreme pain looks like. So I think for me, I'm already programmed, and I was trained by the greatest military in the world. So I'm not really attached to humans. I tell you, I live in the moment, so I was trained to live in the moment. And so I think with me, I'm already expecting you to fuck me. And I'm not saying you, but that's just how I live life. It's not really fulfilled, and I don't want people to live themselves, but my whole thing was, I think my whole life I walk and say, if this guy's going to take me, what would be the move? Bruce Lee once said this, when he was the Wing Chun masters. He says, a master will never show you everything he has in case the student ever turns. And I could never understand that.
I taught you everything that you know, but I haven't taught you everything that I know.
Correct. And I never could understand that. Because I have a different heart. I never wake up, honestly, don't wake up and try to take anybody.
Let's see if you remember this. You guys are young guys. When the grasshopper takes the...
Kung Fu.
When the grasshopper takes the...
And snatch the pebble from my hand.
From my hand. It will be time for you to leave. Because you're ready to be when the grasshopper.
It was David Carradine. It was the show. Yeah, we grew up with only 3 channels.
I
was listening.
I had 5. I grew up in New York City, so we had 5.
3 channels.
And I didn't even have a channel, baby. I'll be up there.
Did you ever see the show Kung Fu?
No, that was before my time.
How good was that show?
But let me tell you something. So
Never a lot of choice. So I don't know if, in hindsight,
I would have watched it if I had the 300 channels on TV. If it was on today, I'd be watching it.
I'm gonna share a story with you.
Be Walter.
So when I trained with my master, right, arguably probably one of the best martial arts assassins known. And as crazy as when he was in these schools that he'd been in Japan, I think one in China, he challenged the teachers, and if you kicked the teacher's ass, you took over their school. So he lived with this greatest fear that one day he would find a student that was gonna do the same to him. So here I come along, right? And I'm in the yellow pants, and you gotta imagine this. All the people I'm training with, they're, tacticians. Some are black belts in this. I'm just here with some street knowledge. Well, I told you the story about early on in one of the first podcasts where he busts me up, busts up my nose, busts my lip, and I had never seen a man move that fast. And I'm talking about, I'm a pretty freaking badass street fighter, but I had never seen a man move that fast and so devastated. I wiped my shirt and he says, okay, lesson's done for the day. But he's trying to break my spirit, right? What I walked away from there and said, holy shit, I have to learn from this sucker. We started off with 17 students. He was so crazy that we were losing students left and right because you were fearing your life every time you were there. But I just kept on coming for more. So I remember one time we're almost done, and he would give me this story, and he'd say, one day the student and the master will be walking. And as they walk, the lantern will turn off, but the student will no longer hear the master's voice. And so I never understood all. I'm like, okay, what is this guy talking about? So one day he says, we're in meditation, he says, you're a hungry, drooling tiger, and one day you will attack me. And so in my Western mind, I'm thinking, well, one, I don't attack people I love, and one, I don't attack, like that's like attacking my dad, so I can't get it in my head. But what I didn't realize is that he was going to become a self-proclaimed prophecy. Now I'm going to tell you what goes on here. So one day we're going in, we're training, I'm highly trained. I was so fast that when you punched, I could literally move on the side of you and watch you. I used to fuck with people all the time. And I would just tire them just by the moves. That's how fast I was. My senses were at a different level. So one day we show up at the dojo. I come in and I walk in. I see all the students on their knees, like in meditation, looking up with bloody noses. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? But I come in. He gets a set of gloves and he throws them at me. And he says, put these on. And so they're the Bruce Lee gloves that he used with the open fingers. Not like UFC, but they kind of short fingers, but they have more of a kind of a 10-ounce feel. Yep. So I'm lacing him up. The guy gets in, who was my corner guy, and laces me up, and I'm all freaked out. And he says, fight! And I'm thinking, what the fuck is going on? But I realized that he's not kidding, and he had soaped the floor down. So he had soaped the entire floor, and so we're training on soap, and the shit is slippery than hell, and so you train in like wrestling shoes. And so I'm there, and I'm like, holy crap. He's throwing so fast of punches that I remember when he busted me up, and I'm thinking, this guy's gonna fucking knock my block off. He's not kidding. And so I move away, and I'm talking, you could hear the impacts. So he catches me in the shoulder, and I had rolled it, and almost dislocates my shoulder. No bullshit. The students are all freaked out. In that moment, something clicked. It all came like a hungry, drooling tiger. And so we step up, and I'm pretty damn fast, right? And so I lightning him, and so I'm unloading, and I'm just tagging him every which way. And so my signature was once I kind of knocked you to the side, I'd hit you with the mule kick. And so I hit him with the mule kick so hard that I lifted him up the ground. He fell facing away from me with his fist down. That would have opened me up for a kill shot. His neck's exposed, it'd have been a kill shot, right? At that moment, I rip my gloves off quick. I throw them, and I take off running. I open the door, and I had my car parked in the street. I'm fucking just, full McCoy, right? I jump in my car. I think, if this sucker gets a hold, because he used to have the swords up on the deal, if he gets a hold of a sword, like I'm mediocre for the average guy. I mean, I look like a swordsman, but this guy was an elite swordsman. I'm thinking, this fucker will kill me. I'm out of here. So it was a fight or flight. So I knocked on his ass. I said, he's got about 3 seconds by the time he wakes up, or 4, and I'm out the door. So I run. I'm just booking it, right? And I had this Grand Prix GTP, fired that sucker up. Everyone thought I'm playing crazy, and I'm hauling ass home. That whole night, I'm sleeping with my one eye open with the shotgun, right? So he calls me. He says, want to meet you at Flying Star. I'm thinking, fuck, this guy was ex-CIA. Do I want to meet him at Flying Star? And so I said, I got to meet him at Flying Star. So I walk in, and we're sitting there, and he's drinking coffee. He says, you want a coffee? So my mind's like, he poisoned me, because I was like, no, I said, I don't want to drink any coffee. So everything he's offering me, I'm not getting unless I see what's going on. So we sit down, he says, so what'd you think about, 2 nights ago? And I said, you know what? I said, I'm kind of Still like it's like a dream or a nightmare. I don't know which one. Ultimately, he says, you dishonored me. And I said, how is that? And I think, well, you fucking forced me. He says, no,
My flight.
by fleeing. He literally wanted me to beat the shit out of him so severe to end his hurtness because he had defied so many of his masters and he had chosen me to be the one to carry that burden.
I was thinking that when you were telling me the story.
But-
why would he pick you?
I never realized it, right? So I only realized that two weeks ago in reading his teachings. And so now I read them and I said, holy shit. The whole time he had chosen me to take his burden. And I was like, fuck that, because I didn't want to live with that burden. Because the only true way to get from that burden is loving someone. Because you got to imagine, I literally love this guy. I looked up to him so it's like a second father. And then he wants me to do this. I said, there's no way I can do it. And that was a very defining factor in my mind. So when you ask me, when someone does this and they turn from you, would it ever be as painful as that moment? Absolutely not. Because here was a man who was teaching me everything that you see today.
And I can identify with that. You and I have talked, in my culture of medicine, I come from that in my DNA. And when my medicine man asked me if I wanted it, I'm going to change the wording from burden to responsibility,
Yeah. Yeah.
And I told him, no, I don't want the responsibility. I don't want the responsibility that comes with that. But what an honor. What an honor for your teacher, your mentor, to pick you, to ease his burden, I think what a great lesson for you to learn too when he sat you down 2 days later and you're in, you're in total protective mood going, my teacher, I just kicked my teacher's ass and he wants to get even with me. And in reality, you find out, that that's how it was supposed to be. What a great lesson, man.
Powerful,
What
right?
a great lesson. Like, those things are lessons that change your life.
But
Those things.
in my essence, coach, and he would always say in the last teaching, he says, you will go on to be a great master, but the life of a master is a lonely life. And so I made that
It is. He's right.
And so I made that cognitive decision that I didn't want to take upon that act, right?
Right.
And so I've never taught anyone martial arts. And I know some pretty deadly shit, right? And so I practice on my own, but I never have actually passed that universal martial arts system that I know.
Right.
So we can. The third thing says that you learn to put no into practice, and my time is too valuable to waste.
Probably the greatest one of all the ones that I brought. When I was a very young man, I was always a yes guy. I wanted to please guys. When I was a young engineer, they say, can you put this configuration together? I say yes to everybody. And so I'd be overworking myself, almost not meeting the stuff that I needed to do. And at the time, I still was training because, I tried to go back to Asia to do what I did best. But the problem was this. I was always looking for a thank you, like hopefully someone do me a thank you. And sometimes I was getting taken advantage of. What I was realizing is that I was burning all my personal energy for what? For someone else's gain. But this takes me to a quick little question. I don't know if I shared this once, I think, in the podcast. When I was in college, you had to take sociology. And I was a cocky sucker because, I was damn good in the sciences. And so I go to my one of our head professors and I said, why do I got to take sociology? Engineers don't give a shit about sociology. And he says, you look here, little asshole. He tells me, you either take sociology or I'll freaking kick you out of this program. So I was pissed, right? Because, I was a prodigy. And so I walk in and I'm like, fuck, I walk late to this class. And this whole place is packed with students, right? And I'm like, shit, it's like an auditorium. And so I'm like, the only seat that's open is 2 rows to the front. And so I walk in, and at the time I was pretty massive. I'd been ripped to shit. So I walk in, and I kind of do that. I'm not going to look at him, and I'm going to sit down. So I sits down, and he says, "Hey, good of you joining us. Why don't you introduce yourself?" And I'm like, "Son, this guy's putting him in the spot over here." So I'm like, "Okay, so and so," and I want to say, "Well, I'm in the engineering program. The rest of you guys here are just kind of sleepy poo." So that's what I thought in my mind. I didn't say that. So he stands me up and he says, "All the females in this class, what do you think about this guy?" And now I'm like getting pissed, right? I'm thinking, what's this guy saying? Do you think he's a nice guy? Do you think he's this? So we go through all this hoorah. So he brings me up and he brings up this other female, puts us in the front of the class. And I'm looking at her, she's looking at me, and I'm just like kind of embarrassing, right? And he tells me, "I'm going to tell you something right now. I'm going to teach you something that's going to be the most valuable lesson you'll ever learn in your life." And I'm kind of thinking, what's this guy going to teach me? He says, "Every relationship is based on common interest. And the moment you think that a relationship is not based on common interest is when you'll learn the greatest failure in your life." To this day, the biggest lesson that I learned out of my college degree, everything is based on common interest.
And you know, 2 weeks ago, you let us know that really you learned that lesson as a young guy when you went into Al and wanted Al to train you. What was the criteria that Al set for you as a young guy?
And imagine, he didn't even tell me that. I mean, you got to think about this, right? That's one of my top mentors right there. So here I am, fucking 25 years later. I met the criteria, but he never told me what it was. And so I'm sitting there and I'm learning stuff that you're learning at the time, and I thought that was powerful.
Right.
And I never knew, that he was taking me to a limit, kind of like Carson. It's a weird thing. He's in there digging the hole, but I'm not telling him what the criteria is, but he kind of knew it better than I did.
Right.
And he's like, "Well, can I keep up with this guy?" Introduce, and I'm looking at this guy and saying, "Holy shit, this is the most biggest human I've ever seen in my life. So I want to be like him." Right?
And that confirms the lesson.
That confirms the lesson.
That confirms the lesson, because what Al was telling you was the same thing what the professor was telling you. That like-mindedness, which is the same thing of rule number 3, don't waste my time.
Don't waste my time. But too many people spend their
My
time.
is too valuable.
And to wrap that circle around, people really, 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 really care about what people's opinions are. And it's my famous thing right there. It says people's opinions can be cash at the bank. And that's what I think Carson, and he could touch this, I think he already came to the game like 85% with this rule already in him. Where I think he might have been affected a little bit, but something shifted in him where the public opinion really didn't hit him. And I'm not going to speak for him. I'm going to let him kind of touch on that.
No, yeah, that's 100% true. That's 100% true. And I think, you know what, a lot of this stuff, and I think why me and Jack had such a common interest and I had those expectations was because of how I was raised with my mom and my stepdad. My stepdad has a lot of traits that Jack has. And I think that's why, a lot of things where he would put me to a test and it was like, oh, I already been through this, but it's just something different. You know what I mean? And I think that's why we kind of had that mental click, was because there were all those similarities. But one thing with me too is I've always had the mindset of, if someone's telling me what to do, they have to have achieved or accomplished or already do what I'm ultimately striving to accomplish with my life. And if they have not, and they're telling me to do that to get there, it makes zero sense to me to listen to what they're telling me, and that's a big reason why I dropped out of school early and different things like that, because a lot of the professors that were teaching me certain things were never in that realm, but they were trying to tell me how to get there. So it just was a complete...
Is that like the example of someone that's trying to teach business and yet they're not in business themselves, all they're doing is
or they were a
teaching
manager.
business?
They were a manager or a director for a big corporation, but my ultimate goal was not to have done that, so.
And even that's a rarity. In the business realms, you don't find guys that are directors. He might have found one. It's so weird to me in those principles, and it just sucks that they'll get these teachers that have never been in those worlds. It's not high school.
Right.
But in engineering, those teachers that you're learning from, 85% of them are either team leads at Sandia National Labs or Intel or some type of engineer, and they're really teaching you the principles of engineering. So it's not from like a theory base, right?
Right.
And I think too, it ties into the beginning of the conversation that you brought up, right? When you're hiring someone, they came fresh out of school, and you're like, "What's this? What's that? What's this? What's that?" And still, a lot of them don't know, and then still companies are still having to go in and train them on certain things that are actually hands on the job. You know what I mean? So that was a big change for me, and that's a big reason why I chose the path that I decided to go down. You know.
But I think, what do you think the lesson in your life was that kind of, I like to use the word, for me, I like to use hardened. A lot of people think that's a bad word. I don't look at that. It's kind of like battle tested. But what do you think got you to that 80% where people's opinions weren't affecting you? What in your, was it your childhood? And I know the answer to this.
Yeah.
But I kind of want you to,
No, it was definitely my childhood growing up. I mean, I saw a lot of things growing up, and I grew up, I like to say, very young and mature, versus, I know certain individuals that are my age, and they were raised, if they came over to my house, their parents wouldn't let them watch like rated R movies, or they couldn't play, rated M video games because it was bad. And I think that hiding the real world from people is what tends to change their mindset in the long run, because when they go out on their own or turn 18 or whatever the case may be, they're seeing all this stuff. And it's like, whoa, what the hell? The world is crazy. But I had just been seeing a lot of real world things at a very young age, So, I joke around and say, I was already in my late 20s when I was, 10 years old, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I saw so much, having an older brother and all that stuff too, it's, my brother and I were 13 years apart. So I spent a lot of time with him, and I got to see, what he would do. And I was just very observant. I'd watch people, and when I'd get to the privilege to go on vacations or whatever, we'd go to California, and you'd see a Lamborghini, and you're like, well, why is this guy in a Lamborghini and this person's in a Honda Civic, and they're, at the same stoplight? And I would just always I'm very over analytic, and that.
Yeah.
But I think that's kind of one of the big traits that I've had, and I just really observe and see why certain people have certain results and certain people have the other results, and try to follow the path of, because every day, I mean, we're put at a line where we get a choice, right? You make one choice, okay, here's what's going to happen today. You make a choice to do something else today, here's what's going to happen. And I just wanted to follow the path of people who ultimately had made certain choices to get to a result that I'm searching for. You know what I mean? Like, same thing, obviously, why you'll tell me something and I'm just like, okay, cool, and I go do it, instead of being like, well, that doesn't make sense to me, I don't agree with, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Same difference.
And I think, Coach, like, one of the things you're talking about is when I'm talking to people, I think this is why it's called the Truth Podcast. Like, when I get a negative feedback and I'm trying to teach someone something, and they're like, well, why'd I gotta do this? I just hit them with the, you ain't fucking ready. So I wasted my time. There's no going back. Right? Because what I learned is when you're training with the great masters, you're going in there begging. Like in the schools in Asia, you're mopping the floor just to get into the school. You don't just go in there and say, hey, can I buy myself in here? They don't give a crap. It's how much do you want to put into it.
It's like Doctor Strange.
Yes.
Where he thinks he's too smart to go into the class, or he thinks that they're just like crazy people because they can do out-of-body experiences, until she shows him the true out-of-body experience, and then they kick him out, and he's begging to get back into the school to learn everything.
And which is rare, because that's exactly the stuff that I saw. But they'll never show you. And so that says, better to leave a man thirsty, so when he dies, he doesn't know that he died of thirst.
When the student is ready, the teacher will appear.
And that's 100%. That's what happened to me in my life, and that's why I testify that 100%. Because when I told my story that day, when I was still in high school, I was like, God, how am I gonna? We're in Albuquerque. Like, how am I gonna meet someone, that has built massive success and this and that? And one of the guys I reached out to on social media lived in St. Louis. And it's like, okay, well, this guy's got a huge following. He's not really going to invest too much time in me. And I was like, hey, man, how you preach this, right? Like, seek these people out. But how do I seek these people out? I'm 16 years old. How am I going to be able to get a dinner with someone who's significantly older than me and, you know, a multimillionaire. And he's just like, you just gotta be prepared, read books, prepare your mindset, believe it, all this stuff, right? All that talk. And sure enough, you know, Jack became like my big brother. It was crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And here coming out of the gym, and I'm driving the Mercy, and he sees it. Think about that, right? You can manifest when you're ready, but you got to work for it. But you look what he did. They said, look, read the books. The guy was versed. And so the one thing you know about me is that, you know, that's why I like talking to John a lot when I met him. I need to be intellectually challenged and stimulated. So when someone gives me this is this and the fact, it sparks me up, and now I'm awake.
So you're intellectually challenging him, and I don't get 2 words out of you.
Hey, coach, always.
I get like, yes, coach.
Hey, coach is
no,
getting-
coach.
Coach is feeling left out of something.
Yeah,
We're gonna give you the
know,
big love
like-
hug, coach, behind like that, dude.
We're gonna give him the big love hug.
You're stimulating Jack intellectually behind my back? The nerve.
You know what's so crazy is he comes up in our. I was telling.
That sounds a little shaky.
Yeah.
You know, that might not read well on a transcript.
Yeah, that's it.
when says
Coach
you're
is always saying
you're
some shaky
stimulating
yeah,
stuff.
Jack.
always kind of funky.
Yeah,
man.
it's gonna. That's why I had to switch seats.
Yeah.
Everyone noticed that I used to sit next to Coach, and now I move across the table. 'Cause
You know what's funny is that we're
Rejected by Carson.
rejected by
I feel
Carson.
like Rodney Dangerfield. Let me tell you, I get no respect.
You know what's funny is yesterday I'm driving home and we're talking, and John comes up and I said, you know, we send him so once in a while we get some messages like on a podcast, and then I go into it deep, right? Like we shared the last subject, and I started researching all kinds of shit, and that's what I like, and that's what I'm talking about. When you're with people that are going to help you get enlightened in any type of way, that's why I personally love hanging out with Michael so much. You know, Michael always laughs and he says, you know what? When I feel like I got to get something done, I just call you to lunch when I'm feeling down. And I'm like, dude, I'm getting the same amount from you and you're getting from me. You think I'm motivating you, but what I realize is he makes me walk away and say, life's too fucking short. He's so calm, and, you know, I'm looking and I think, shit, you know what? He's got it figured out. And that's what I like. And you want to get with people like you were talking about, and that goes back to the mental muncher. The guy's munching away your fucking thought process, your peace, or whatever it is. Get out of there. And that's why I don't got time for that. Me, coach, it's so funny you said something early on. And I'm going to give it in my words. You, in essence, said you're looking for quality time now.
Right, QTL.
QT, right? And I'm actually in the same boat you are. I'm always tracking about 20 years ahead of my life. Where I'm at today, it's all about quality time. Because even today, I was thinking about with my staff, right? Back in my days when I was coming up the game, when I was Carson's age, I wanted to motivate you. I wanted to get to the top of the war. They were going to do this like soldiers, and we're all going to eat. And half these fuckers fell off the plank, right? And I found myself motivating people. But it's a trip. I invested in what I call business nuclear warfare. I don't need the soldiers. I'll just drop the business nuclear bomb because I got tired. And so I think that I'm at the point where I just want quality time. And when I want to show something, that's why I'm doing this podcast. I hope these words touch you, and it does, because I showed up to Cards and Coffee, and I had 4 individuals come and say, I'm tuned into the podcast. I learned this, that, and the other. And I'm thinking, if you don't sit here and listen to it, the chances of me sitting with you across the table, it's probably not going to happen.
It's really,
Yeah.
it's you know, we talked about it a little bit when a student's ready, the teacher will
Mm-hmm.
appear. You have to take an investment in yourself. You know, you have to invest
do.
in yourself before other people can invest in you.
Well, that's the thing,
You
like
know?
we talked about at the beginning of the podcast, you
Right.
know, this is the pool. You know what I mean? Certain
Right,
things like
right.
this are the pool. And that's why early on, too, the music I used to listen to, I would listen to it. Like even in Jay-Z's song that he put out, he says he's giving $1 billion worth of knowledge for $9.99. Because he's actually saying life scenarios that he went through that were mistakes, where he said
Yeah.
he bought every Lamborghini he could, and he didn't buy a building in Dumbo for 12 million, and now it's worth like 50 million.
Yep.
But things like that, you know, it's
True.
it's always truly listening to what message people are getting
And that's
across.
a great point, youngster. And I say youngster in a way that's very wise
Mm-hmm.
for you to say at your age, because I wasn't the way you were at your age. I was 1,000 miles an hour going what I wanted to do,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't listen. You know, and it took a couple of head coaches for me to work for to say, hey, you know,
Yeah.
2 ears, 1 mouth.
Yeah.
You know, and I've said in past podcasts how good you are at that. You know, like as a young guy, you know how good you are. One of the things that when you have knowledge, you know, and people don't take advantage of it
Yeah.
when you have knowledge because maybe their pride or whatever comes. You know, one of the things that I just don't get, like for me around here, coaches, like I was brought up with knowledge because maybe I was brought up with asking questions as a young guy. You know, if there's a guy that's been doing it longer than me, I want to learn from him.
Exactly.
If there's a guy that's been, you know, to this day, I'm still the same way. I think I've said in the past, any major decision I ever made with my football team, I called Harbaugh
Yeah.
and talked about Harbaugh with him, you know, and so it confirmed it. Not enough people are like that nowadays.
Yeah, they're not.
They know it now.
Well, even like-
I know it now.
Yeah.
I know, you know, like you can't teach me anything. And that, it's their shrewdness of reaching the heights of what they can possibly reach.
Yeah, absolutely.
To this day, you know, one of the things that I developed as I got older than you guys, I learned to listen to people who had the credibility for me to listen to them.
And Coach, this kind of segues into my last, you know, lesson for this, and I'm going to read this one so we got it. And so this is something that I think most people, if you follow this one, you won't make major mistakes. Exciting opportunities that aren't a good fit for you, right? And so let's talk about that. Someone comes, you know how many people approach me and say, you know what, you got to get in the cannabis business, you know, this and that. And if you know about the cannabis business, it's pretty saturated. But number one, I'm a federal contractor, so I can't even touch that shit, right?
Bitcoin.
So I think the thing is the get rich quick, or this opportunity that maybe it's not the get rich quick, but it's completely out of your wheelhouse. How many NBA players do you know that jump in, or NFL, and they buy restaurants and 96% fail? It's not in your fucking wheelhouse. But what do? How are you going to continue making that money at that level yearly? But what you got to realize is that you don't need to be making that money yearly all the time. Is what is it going to take for you to live? And you work the mathematics from reverse. And this is why I always think that simple mathematics should be pounded into kids over and over and over again, because it creates a mindset. And I was telling them this yesterday. It was crazy. I'm talking about this about when I'm driving the G-Wagon. I said, dude, you know, these last years, holy shit, I dropped some freaking coin on cars, right? Liquid, you know, as anyone knows, I own every single car free and clear, right? I just stroke a check. But at the time, should I bought the cars or should I bought a building, you know, whatever. But bottom line is, for me, they bring in the mental sanity. It's my golf. But imagine if I took that money and invested in the next best thing, and now this pandemic hit, I would be fucking pissed. I'm not pissed on a car. Fucker could depreciate, could give less a shit,
Right.
because I have the enjoyment factor. But I would be pissed as hell if I took that $900,000.
Something you truly didn't enjoy and
Didn't
took the
enjoy
loss.
or not even know. So those get rich quick or an opportunity that sounds good and can bring you this return, it's not worth it. Don't bring that weariness. And so for me, that's why I'm so versed in so many different things. You can't come bullshit me in the business aspect, the banking aspect, because I know it to a science, right? And so when I sit there, I said, well, give me the evaluation. Show me all the math. Let's break this math down. Nobody wants to. You know how people hit me? We got to get this done tomorrow. This deal's here today, and we got to do it tomorrow. And I'm like, where's the paperwork? Oh, we're going to draw that up. And what I want to say is, is this contract really worth your life? That's what I really want to say.
That's your thought bubble.
That's exactly my thought bubble, because I'm thinking, dude, you did a deal like this with the wrong guy. Is it worth your life?
You know, one of the things too, and I want people that watch this that don't know you. You know, we talk a lot about your accolades. We talk a lot about your personality. We talk a lot about, and some people that don't know you, don't have access to you, might go, man, this guy is always talking about himself, you know. And it could appear to be that way. But you and I have had conversations where you were the student. You know what I'm saying? Like where you're learning. We've talked about spiritual. We've talked about warrior, and you've got your, you know, you've got whatever it is that you need when it comes to that warrior mentality. But when you see something that, hey, I can learn from this, you have the ability to learn.
So I'm gonna tell you something, Coach. When I was a young executive, you know, when I was Carson's age, I destroyed it, right? I mean, I was freaking pretty much balling it. And I had made $1 million. And so I'm sitting there and people would be like, you gotta be humble. You gotta be humble. You gotta be humble. So I always be like, what the hell? But people always like me, right? So I'm like, what does that mean? But I'm sitting, a man I really look up to, his name's Cameron. I mean, great guy. He's a small business, been a painter, just phenomenal individual. We're sitting at lunch. He's giving me a lot of advice. And we're sitting there and he says, you know what? You know, if I didn't know you and who you are, he says, you know, you sometimes talk in second tense and, you know, I scored a 32 on my ACT and all that shit. He says, but you can do it because you can back it. So there's a difference, right? If I'm talking a lot of shit and I can't back it, well, then you're just talking smoke. But the reason that people know that I don't do it from a point of I'm better than you.
You don't do it from a point of arrogance.
No, mine is of a point of, dude, I did it and I couldn't believe it, and no one believed in me, but I still did it. If that makes any sense, right? And so I come from a point is like, when I tell you that I'm the modern day King David, and I freak people out, it's because, dude, you don't get no shepherd boy than me. I mean, I even came from more modest means and opportunity than you, Coach. You came from New Jersey. You put me in New Jersey, it could have been a damn disaster, right? But ultimately, I'm literally looking to the clouds and dreaming every single day of what my opportunity. When I sit across in this booth right now, every single person in this booth, you guys had triple the opportunity that I had in front of me. Just because of environment, right? When you got to drive 45 miles on one way to get a fucking fast food job, the opportunity is not there. But I learned to hunt the opportunity where there wasn't opportunity.
I agree with you. I've lost so much opportunity, blown so much opportunity in my young life.
On the boat.
You know.
But, you know, let me finish this. So you got this, Coach, okay? So you got to think about this, right? When I was in college, you know, people don't realize this, but, you know, Rosie's mom, you know, I was in college when I was 16, but nobody knew because I was yoked as shit, right? And so I walked in and I knew how to help people. And she was finishing up her nursing degree, and there was another individual getting his bachelor's degree, and he was going to be like a high-level state police. I'm not going to mention his name. And they were having trouble in mathematics. And so I would tutor them, and they only needed like 2 questions to get the answers done. I fucking did it for them. I didn't give a shit. With no intention. Later on, did I know that this individual, and so she'd always come in and make food and give it to me. And at that time, that lunch or whatever she had brought, I actually needed it because I didn't have it. And so I literally survived off protein shakes because I didn't have anything else to do it. And I was too proud to go to my parents and be like, I'm fucking broke as shit here. You know what I'm trying to tell you? And then this individual, when I used to get speeding tickets, would help me out and be like, I'm going to help you do A, B, and C. But this is where I want to segue. Ultimately, it's this. Be proud of your accomplishments and don't be sorry to anybody or who you offend. Because I always tell people my famous line of all time when I was Carson's age. And I would say this: the weak will see it as arrogance, but the strong will see it as an achievement. And the fucker that's sitting here and thinking it talks about himself, you shouldn't be watching this podcast. And I'm going to tell you something right now. I'm going to give you a bold statement. When the general, A.K.A. V-Hill, wakes up in the morning and he looks in that mirror, he doesn't give a fuck what you think about him. I only care about one thing: what my maker thinks about me and what the children think about me. And the day that the children think I'm full of shit, then I know I'm doing the wrong thing. And I care about what my dog thinks about me. And I care about what my family, my immediate circle of family. But I'm going to tell you something, Coach. If I've lived my life according to what people think about me, right, wrong, or indifferent, I wouldn't be sitting here on this side of the chair.
I've always said that, and we talked about it. It's not unusual that our philosophies mesh. I mean, it's not because it's not my philosophy, it's not your philosophy, it's the right philosophy. And we've had teachers teach us that, but I've said it all the time in my coaching career. You know, I've always said that coaches have to understand that, you know, I look at players like kids and dogs, okay? Kids and dogs know, they have that sixth sense about people. Kids and dogs know, you know, they know. It's just, I would say a player has that same sense about his coach, you know, or people have it about mentors. You know who's a poser and who's real.
I'm going to share
I'm
gonna share a story about you, Coach. So one day after this whole, I didn't even know what happened, right? When, you know, you won the 2 championships. So I'm sitting with some individuals and they're trying to sell me. And so I'm listening to the story. Someone comes and says, you know what? You know, what do you think about, you know, what the Gladiators are going to do? And someone had told me about the story about, they said, we want young blood, or I don't know what the hell, and I'm not in my mind. And so I don't say a word. And they asked me, well, and I'm on results. And so I look back and I kick back in my chair and I had a smile on my face and I said, what do you think? And I said, the reason I haven't said anything is because I prefer to have 1 clown than 2. Because everything you said belongs in the circus, because I'm a results-oriented individual. I've sat on boards. I was in a bank advisor. When I look at a financial statement, I don't give a shit what coach's attitude is. I look at that financial statement and say he could do it. And let me tell you what I've learned in the banking.
People don't like strength, brother.
Let me tell you what I've seen in the banking industry, okay? The people that have to talk the most and all this can't back it up. That's something I've taught this individual. You know, he's in the real estate game. A lot of talkers, a lot of posers. One time I told him, you know what? I just got to open up a bag and I'll deliver it. That's the difference. And so what you catch on is you can get caught up in the whole frequencies of life. But what I've learned myself, and then I'm talking from the street, right? The guys who were always like had that quiet look to their face, kind of like had that weird calmness, and were like kind of extra nice, were the ones you used to read about that took the dude out, right? And the guy that made a lot of noise, like the Chihuahua, never really did anything. So what I realize is I look for that silent strength, but if I know someone's convicted about something and the data, the empirical data backs that, I'm going to watch out for that character.
You know, and I say this in coaching. I apply the same principle. I'm not everybody's cup of tea. You know, I'm not everybody. You know, if you want me to be your head coach, you got to give me the keys. You know, if you don't give me the keys, I'm not your guy.
You want to hear my rep, Ryan? I'm not everybody's team, motherfucker, because I'm Louis 1-3.
I love it. I love it. And it's the truth. There are certain, like, for example, if you're going to coach for me.
That's original, Carson, just so you know. You never heard that nowhere. I didn't know that.
No, I know what he said.
Oh, okay. We want to make T-shirts out of that.
Have you ever heard that anywhere? No one's ever rapped that lyric. That's my lyric, baby.
Let's get a T-shirt with that. But if you're going to coach for me, the one thing that I'm going to teach you is I'm going to teach you how to be thick-skinned. Because if you're going to coach for me, you're going to have to be thick-skinned. You know, I'm hard on my coaches because I want my coaches hard on my players.
Yeah, it's the culture.
And exactly, I'm hard on them. So no matter what obstacle they come up, whether we're on the field, off the field, I want them to rely on their teaching. I want them to rely on good. No matter what you're going through in life, no matter how hard it is, good. Because there's a silver lining in everything. And there are people out there, there are coaches out there that are posers, that don't want strong assistant coaches, that don't want, you know, I want strong assistant coaches. I want an assistant coach. I would tell my assistant coaches or my players, when I would light either one of them up, and I would light them up, I'm lighting you up because I want you to come back at me. I don't want your tail to go between your leg and your shoulder. I want you to come back at me because that's part of the culture of what I'm teaching you. I'm going to invest emotion into you. I want you to bring it back. We're men. We're alphas. I'm teaching you how to be an alpha because I need strong lieutenants when we go to battle.
Yep.
You know.
Yep.
And so that's the thing where, you know, the challenge for me here is that you don't get a whole lot of coaches that understand that message. You'll get that coach who doesn't want strength around them. I'm the head dog. Because when you're the right head dog, you don't put weakness around you.
No.
That's one of the things that, you know, I noticed from you from Jump Street. You know, you got strength around you.
Yep.
You know, you battle tested guys, man, or you're going to test them with battle, like your teacher did with you when you knocked him on his ass. He was teaching you to be battle tested.
You know, it's a funny story people would always say, and it's so crazy. You know, it's funny. Clients always tell me, says, "Man, the harmonics. Every harmonics guy that comes in here, you guys are all like really super fit, and the guys are all really good-looking guys." And I said, "You know, the thing is, your soldiers are a reflection of you. So you know, guys out there like you know that want to hang with guys that are way lesser than them, so they can make themselves feel good. Same thing with females. That doesn't make any sense." I want the best breeds, right? The top of the breeds to be rolling together. And that's what I think most people don't understand. But I learned that, you know, being training in special operatives is that the best is the best. It doesn't matter. That's ultimately what I'm always surrounding myself with. You're not always going to be the best comm guy. You want the best communications guy, period, in your unit. And if it all goes to shit, he better know how to fix it. Right? And that's the thing is that people don't understand. So you got to have all the superior people in your lives. It's kind of like this podcast. We got a hell of a mix. Everyone here is a champ. That's why it's on Champions Corner, right?
Right. Appreciate the plug, bro. Love Champions Corner.
I might be taking up the rap game or something. I don't know.
All right, so we've covered all 5, right?
Yeah.
And I hope that if you're out there, we said it before, if you're out there, invest in these podcasts. You can go to every single one of them, and there is power in this podcast. There is power in the words. Invest in yourself and find it. You can't make a fortune. No one's going to show up and say, here's the gold, okay? Unless you invest in yourself. If you invest in yourself in this podcast, you'll find the gold. Without a doubt. Jack, in closing, what do you want to, you know, we close this podcast out every week with you giving them something to fill them and empower them for the next week, you know.
I'm just going to have to hit it with my number one here, right? Again, is, you know what? People's opinions can be cash at the bank. And I think if you know how to value yourself and know your own value mentally, internally, no one else is going to care. So I'm at the end of the day, focus on yourself, better yourself, surround yourself with the best, so then you can gauge with you, see if you're the best. Like what Carson said when he was 6th grade, you want to play with varsity, because if you just surround yourself with mediocrity, well, you're just going to be 2 degrees above mediocrity. So ultimately, be your own worst enemy. Be your own competition. Forget about what's around you. Just focus on yourself. That's all I got for you, Coach.
Powerful, powerful words. Big holiday weekend coming up.
Yep.
You know, you young guys, I'm sure you're going to take advantage of the holiday weekend and be safe and take advantage of being young, because in a blink of an eye, Carson, you're going to be my age and you're going to say, no way, you know, but you're going to be my age in a blink of an eye. You too, young,
know
you
it.
know.
I know. But you know what, Coach? I'm going out. I'm going to go kicking.
QTL.
I'm going kicking and screaming, baby. I'm going like Stallone. I don't care what it takes.
Thanks, guys. Producer John Chavez, man. Thanks, John. Great show as usual, bro. Let's go get it. Let's go get it in the next week.
Absolutely.
Here we go. This is that coach's reference.
Come quickly as you can. Snatch the pebble from my hand. When you can take the pebble from my hand, it will be time for you to leave. Please excuse me.